Hey there guys, how you doing? Thought I'd make this quick video. This is my 2008 Ford Expedition right here in the background. Got a little problem going on at the moment with the front seat and figured out how to solve it, and I thought I'd show you guys how I did it. Before you get to messing around with any work on your car or whatever you're doing, just a reminder guys, always wear PPE, gloves, safety glasses. It's not cool to have no eyes. Okay, so take care of yourselves. Alright, let's go see what's going on here with the car. Problem with the front seat. Okay, to get the seat out of the car, you need a Torx bit. You need this one right here, T55. It's kind of a star-shaped deal. In order to get out these four bolts. And then there's also a little screw just here. There's a couple of these little guys in order to get these panels off. And that one is a T15. So just make sure you have those. Electrical short, blowing fuses. So I've taken out the front seat. You can see the wiring here, the wiring harness that runs to the front seat. Various screws, etc. Come around to the front. The fuse panel in these Ford Expeditions is right here. You pull the cap off of this thing. Well, I've looked at this ahead of time. The fuse location that we're looking at, you can see right here. It's actually this one, number 45. That's the fuse for the front seat. Now the kind of fuse that goes in there, I've got one right here. It's a 30 amp Eaton Bussmann fuse. Pretty stock standard, costs about $4 at AutoZone. There's the code right there, BP FLS30RP. Goes in this slot right here. That's the number 45 in there. I'm just going to go ahead and get this fuse out. And I'm going to put that in. Make sure he lines up. So we've got our new 30 amp fuse in there. So when we deal with the electrical short and get the seat back in, we know our fuse is good to go. So I'm going to go ahead and put that cover back on now. And that should be about all the messing around we're going to have to do under here for the time being. Okay, so here's the seat out of the 2008 Ford Expedition. Front seat, driver's seat. You can see all the electrics under here. It's pretty complicated piece of kit. What I found, I've had this thing apart and I've had to pull this bracket here out. Had to remove 3 screws at the front down here. See them across there, 1, 2, 3, to kind of get this plastic bracket piece to be able to move. It's kind of a cable support, so that I was able to get in and find where the short is here. So if you look in, let's get a flashlight on this. It might be a little tricky. You can see right there on that bit of wire, you see the short. You can see the exposed copper there through the green wire. That's what's blowing the fuse, the 30 amp fuse in the fuse box. And how this happens is this seat obviously slides back and forward every time you start the car, which is kind of annoying, I have to say. I'd prefer the seat didn't move. But basically these wires are tucked in underneath this cross brace most of the time. This is actually your seat forward and back motor right here. It's got a dual drive. It's got a drive on the left side there and a drive on the right. It's driving into these tracks through a gear mechanism and running your track forward and backwards. So there's actually a drive shaft that runs right there where my finger is. these wires are underneath that, and basically you've got a sharp edge on this bracket right under there where my finger is, and that sharp edge is causing abrasion on the cables, and that's what's led to my short. So I'm gonna go ahead, and I got a little bit of electrical gear here, get some of this sheathing here to protect the cable, and basically electrical tape it back up, and that should take care of the short. The problem I had was my kids went and got in the car, and somehow it wasn't shorting at the time, and they were able to move the seat all the way forward, and they got it jammed all the way forward, so I wasn't able to get in and drive the car. So that was really why I had to pull the seat out. So while I had the seat out, obviously to be able to get it back into position, I had to figure out how to ghetto rig the motor to drive it. So I'm going to show you how I did that here in a second. Basically you got this control module here. If you trace, this thing's pretty sensitive, so you want to be careful with this. I don't know if you can see if you can read this here. It actually says on it, scrap if dropped more than 20 centimeters. So that's obviously a pretty sensitive bit of gear. Look at that, assembled in Mexico. There you go, Trump was right. So you need to be careful with this, because obviously if you drop that, you're going to be up for probably a few $100s. But basically, looking at the wires in here on the motor, I was able to, basically if you unclip this here, I don't know if I can get it out right now. There we go. Get a look at the cables. You've basically got green with a blue stripe and green with a white stripe driving that motor. And funny enough, my cables over here that have got the short, if I can get them out again, same thing. So those are my cables there. Now those cables actually run back through into this green connector here. It runs into this control module. So you're able to drive this motor by actually plugging into this green connector right here. So I'm going to get that out in a second and set that up and show you. Right now you can see I've got another jerry rig going on here. These two red cables. These are actually upstream. These actually supply power to this module, the control module. And then from there the power then goes out to the motor. If you want to drive the motor alone, the simplest way to do it and the safest way to do it is from this connector, this green connector, like I'm going to show you. To do it from here, which I've done, basically had to determine which pins are which in here as far as the power feed to this whole thing. And obviously you got to be careful here because this all runs on 12 volt, and so especially with this control module you don't want to be supplying anything higher than 12 volt through this, because that's going to run through here and you never know, you could do some damage. So I don't know that much about electrics to take that risk, but if you look in the back, let's get this thing back in its slot here, or at least tucked there. When you're trying to figure out which wires give you power, it's basically the thicker ones. It's hard to get the good look in here, guys, but that you can see one in there that's grey with a red stripe. That's actually thicker than all the other wires, and then there's another one that's black with a purple stripe on it, that one right there. Those two are thicker than the rest. Those are your power wires. So you look in the back of your plug, you see where those are coming through, and then if you're able to get a connection onto the pins in the front, you can actually supply power to the unit. So I was actually able to make the seat work by connecting these, just touching these on a 12-volt battery, just directly on a car battery. I was able to power this seat while I had it out. So that's kind of how I did it. But let me disconnect this and set up to show you how to drive the forward and back motor without having to go through this control module here and kind of risking damaging other things. Okay guys, so these are the key wires that you need to make up something like this. Basically, a couple of standard little electrical connectors, and I had to bend one half of it out of the way so that I was able to get this little connector into the actual plug to be able to get power through. The other end here, obviously that's a male connection, and then on the other end here I've got the female connectors that I had to rig up to be able to get power to the front, the main connection for the seat from the harness that runs from the car, as I was showing you before. With these and an 18-volt battery from a Ryobi cordless drill, you're able to run the seat back and forward. So you see there, 18-volt battery. Your terminals are up here on the top, so basically you got, shows you right there, positive and negative up on top. So right there and right there you can get power. I'm going to sit the battery here. I've got my green plug out that I was showing you before. If you look in the back here, you see there, that second wire in on the top is my green with my blue stripe, and the second wire in on the bottom is my green with the white stripe. And remember, from the motor, those are the two wires that drive that baby. So what I'm going to do, I can just set the camera here. I'm going to hook my wires in. Basically just go right in there in the second slot, so we know we're getting our motor connection. Sorry about the view here guys. Okay, so those are connected, and basically now, you see, I'll give you a bit of a look here. See, they're just tucked in there like so. Pretty straightforward. And then see if I can get a shot here. Okay, should be able to see as I touch these to the battery, we'll get our seat to move forward and back on the track. Let's see, here goes. There we go, see that? So the way to reverse is just reverse polarity. So I've brought it forward out of position. I just want, actually that's bringing the seat back. Now I just want to bring the seat forward. I'm going to touch it on again. Run it to about there. And now I'm comfortable that I've got the seat in the position that I need it. To be able to get it back in the vehicle, and hopefully it'll be about right. But worst case, when I put this back in the car, it doesn't work because there might be some other short somewhere that I haven't found. Worst case, you can always just pull this green cable and hook this up, move the seat where you need it, and then just basically leave it. I don't need the seat going back and forward on me all day long. Put it in the position you need it in and just leave it there. So that's pretty much it for now guys. I'm going to go ahead and fix this short, protect that, and I'll put the seat back in the car, and then we'll check in and see how that looks. You can see what I've done here, whereas before there were all kinds of wires hanging out in this area. I'm not using this channel anymore for the wires. I've got all the wires running on the other side of that so that there's no potential for any wire to rub on the underside of this, on the sharp side, and cause the same short that I had before. So you can see here all of these wires that were loose before, I've actually shrouded those on the other side. Just starts just here, it's running all the way back, so we should be pretty clean. Okay, here's the seat pretty much ready to go back in. I just wanted to cover one more thing. Got this interesting little plug here that when I look at the wiring and the way it feeds back into the harness, my guess is that this is some kind of dealer plug connection that you can basically override the seat control here and operate the seat. I did a little research online, couldn't find anything about this plug at all on the internet. So my guess is if you head on down to the Ford dealer, they've probably got something that plugs right in there and you can basically move the seat forward or back or up or down or whatever you need with a simple plug. But again, I couldn't find anything on the internet about it, so I had to go the pleb's way, and I had plenty of work to do here anyway to repair the short, so either way the seat had to come out. But depending on your problem, you might be able to find a solution through this little guy right here. And there's a word on here, Polack plug, and that's kind of what I was searching for online, but again, couldn't find anything. All I got was a bunch of trailer plugs. So anyway, there you go, a little tip to maybe shortcut the process depending what you've got going on. Okay, I've got the seat back in. It's ready to rock and roll. You can see here I've got still got that green plug disconnected. I got my bypass leads in there still and my 18-volt battery, so I'm able to move the seat forward and back without any problem at all. I'm unsure if what I've done is going to work here, obviously, so I've just got the seat in about the position I want it, and I'm going to plug everything back together, and hopefully it all works from the actual controls. But if it doesn't, then there's always the old 18-volt battery to get the seat in position.